Hi, beautiful people. Welcome back. So, today we are going to do a recap and a review of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episode 13, titled Unfashionable Behavior. So, we left off Episode 12 where, the ladies are still trying to figure out how Heather got her black eye. Heather is being coy, she's being elusive, she's just not saying really anything about it. So the ladies are still at the table. I guess they questioned Heather for a little bit, then they finally said, okay, we're gonna leave it alone. So then Dana says to Jen, Jen, I really want to say that, today we got along really well, and I appreciated that. So Jen was like, yeah, I'll let you drive me. Because remember, they did the go-kart where they went around and just checked out the city and see how things were. And she was like, yeah, I'll let you drive me today. So I'm putting a little bit of trust in your hand. So she's like, you know what, Jen, I have to be truly honest. She said, I know someone who came to me and told me, they said that they were working for you, and that they pled guilty, and now they're a government informant. So just told me to be very leery of you because what the business you have going on is very sketchy. So of course Jen is gonna get upset, as anybody would, when you coming at them in front of their peer group. And she's like, after the day we spent together, after I put my life in your hands, you're really gonna question me about my innocence? She said, remember, you're innocent until proven guilty. And Dana was like, girl, she's like, why are you coming at me? Dana was like, girl, I'm not. I'm just letting you know what was said. She's like, who said it? Tell me who it was. Dana did not answer her. She didn't tell her who it was. So Jen gets upset and she leaves the table. And then we have Heather following behind her to check on her. And then we have Meredith leaving because Meredith is like, listen, I'm not here for this. I'm really not into the drama. Even though she doesn't say it, Meredith is letting us know she will not be engaged. So she got up and she left the table. So I thought everybody was, gonna finish up and go to bed. But apparently Jen just went to go freshen up. You have Heather checking on her, telling her, listen, if you still want to go sit down and have a good evening, all we have to do is change the subject to me and my black eye. And I bet you won't hear nothing else from those ladies about it. So you have because Heather was like, I know who did it. They know who did it to my eye. And you have Meredith looking at her like, girl, what is wrong with you? Why don't you come out and just say what needs to be said? However, they still decided to go back to the table. So they went back to the table and they reviewed what was being talked about while they were gone. And then I guess they really figured it was time to wrap it up because Lisa said she had to leave to get to the airport. So they figured they would call it a night. And, that was the end of the trip for San Diego. So now, next scene, we have everybody at home. We just see everybody doing what they're doing. We have Whitney doing her yoga outside. We have Lisa going on a fishing trip with her family. And then we settle on Meredith and her family at home. And they're getting ready for the fashion show. We have Brooks and Meredith's daughter, forgot her name. They're sitting at the table and, Meredith comes over and they're discussing what's going to happen with the show, how they're putting the show together, the real meaning of it and stuff like that. And then I believe her daughter asks her, so do you know who's actually coming? No, Whitney sent her a text message, said she wasn't able to make it. She knew that Jen was coming. She wasn't certain about Heather, but she knew that Lisa purchased a ticket. So she said to her kids, I'm curious to see how she's going to behave towards you guys. And if I need to come over there and rescue you, I will. Because as we know, it's a strained relationship between Lisa and Meredith at the moment. So they're not really seeing eye to eye. So Meredith wants to see how Lisa is towards her kids. All right. Now we have, in the next scene, we have Heather going over to Angie H house for lunch. And Angie H wants to know what happened to your eye, because she apparently heard what was going on. She said, between the time I spoke to you while we were on the trip and you're coming back home, you're coming home with a black eye, what happened to your eye? And Heather was like, girl, I really don't want to talk about it. Angie H was like, if somebody did this to you, it's not good and it's a problem. So she's like, who was with you that that you remember that night? And she named people and she said Meredith, Angie K, and Jen. So Angie H was like, why are you mentioning Jen last? She's like, but just the order I named the people in. She's like, you're making too much of a big deal about it. But what Heather didn't know was that the day before, Angie H did go to an event and she saw Angie K there and she saw Whitney and I believe Donna there. So they filled her in on everything that was happening. So being friends with Angie K and Heather being invited to lunch, of course she's going to go because her friend is inviting her to lunch. But Angie K just wanted her over there to name who did this to you. So all right, they talked about it for a little bit. And she didn't get no answer from Heather. Heather went around the world and back and still didn't tell Angie K who hit her in the eye. Everyone is speculating that it's Jen. But nobody's actually coming out and saying straight up to Heather, but they're speculating behind her back. So we leave Angie K and Heather and we head over to Whitney and the kids. Whitney pulls out some old photo albums and she's looking through photos. And but that's a great idea that Whitney had, because now we're in the age of technology. We tend to keep all our pictures on our devices, but I think it's still a great idea to have them printed out, have them put on the shelf in the house, have them hang on the wall, and even have a photo album, because most of the time you forget, what pictures you have, whereas when you could go pull out the old photo album and flip through it, and you have your memories there. So I think it's something that I'm going to pick back up and print most of the photos that are on my devices and have them in the album. All right, so like I said, Whitney is, going through the photo album. She calls her kids over and they're doing their memories, and then she calls her brother, and her brother is talking to her about her therapy and asking her, actually, what do you remember and stuff. And he's like, what you're going to start doing? You're going to start replacing those old memories, those bad memories, with new one. He's like, get into new interpersonal relationships and create new memories and hope that will push out the old memories are there. So she had a great talk with her brother, and that was Whitney and family. The next scene, we have Jen now. She's talking to her therapist, and he's asking her how she's doing. She's telling her that she's telling him that she's not sleeping well. And the reason that she's not sleeping well because she feels herself going into depression. She's wondering, if she messed up her kids for life, especially her son Omar. She's like, this is a lot to put on my family. The fact that, I have a impressionable child that's in high school. I have a son that's trying to get into medical school. And I'm wondering if my husband is really just staying by my side because, he loves me or he feels obligated to. So she's like, if I feel bad putting all of this on them. So the therapist, in a nutshell, tells her that, the best you can do is hold it together for them. Be strong for them. Because she told us that Coach Shaw said, it does affect him. There are times when he just parks his car and cry. But he doesn't come home and cry in front of the family because he does not want them to see him breaking down. He got to be strong for the family. So Jen says she's feeling really, really guilty about what's going on with her and that it's affecting the whole family. And of course it is. What she's going through is like, I would say, a death. You lose someone. Now we find out, yes, she's been convicted and she's going away for 6.5 years. What is that going to do to her family in the long run? So yeah, I'm sure she's feeling some sort of guilt. So that was Jen's session with her therapist that she did over Zoom, I believe. So now it's the day of the fashion show. We see the Meredith coming in with Seth and the kids. We see the models getting ready. She's putting jewelry on the models. We see Brooks putting his designs or putting his fashions on his models. We see the ladies start to arrive. We see Lisa come in and greet the kids, and of course we see Meredith looking over to make sure that everything is cool. And also at this event, we see Jen comes in with Coach Shaw and I believe one of her assistants, and we see them talking about paying Angie K back her money. So they did a little segment with that. Coach Shaw had the check in his pocket. They did the fashion show. Everything looked great. People screamed out, I want this one, I want that one. And then before they left out, and Coach and Jen pulled Angie K and her husband to the side and, said, listen, I didn't know that a debt was owed. I didn't know that was the case. And if that was the case, I'm sorry. However, here's your money and I'm sorry about that. So they accepted it. Coach is like, let's have a new start. We're going through this. We're going to get past it and then we move on. Then we have Angie K gets in the confession and say, all I know is I'm going to run to the bank and cash this check right away before the Fed sees it. So that was a kiki moment right there. And of course, they show a picture of the actual check transaction being done. Because, I paused the video and I zoomed in. The check was written for the 18th of April. And Angie K cashed that check on the 20th of April, 2022. I'm like, she wasn't lying when she said I'm running to the bank to cash this check. So so that was it. They had a great fashion show. The event was successful. We got to see Meredith's nephew that had the mental health issue, and she tells us a little bit about how they got through it. How her and Seth had to run to California to make sure that they were there for him and help him through that hard time, and that it's a daily struggle and he's still going through it. But it was a great event to raise funds for mental health and addiction issues. All right, so we leave that event and we are with Heather. This is the last scene. We're with Heather and Whitney. Heather goes over to Whitney's house. She greets Whitney's daughter, who is just had a birthday. So she gave her a quick gift, a hug, and then they go outside by the fire pit to talk. Again, Whitney asks her, Heather, what happened to your eye? Who did this to you? She's like, you were intoxicated. Did you fall down or whatever? And Whitney said, Heather said, girl, I know what happened to my eye. I know who did this to me. And she was like, but why won't you tell me? She said, because we're on a friendship break. That's why I'm not confiding in you. So Whitney looked hurt, and Heather told her straight up. She's like, when you told me that we were on a friendship break back at the retreat, do you know how hurt I was? The fact that within this group, you're going to be on a friendship break with me. We were so close for so long, and all of a sudden, we're not friends anymore. She's like, it hurts, and I don't trust you. So in a nutshell, Whitney, I am good with us being just cordial, but I'm not going to confide in you much anymore. And that is where the episode ended. Like on a cliffhanger, we still have Heather at Whitney's house. She said what she had to say. They played the dramatic music, and that was the end of the episode. So with that, they tell us that next week is the finale, season finale. And I know that the reunion has already filmed and that Jen was not at the reunion. I did a video on that telling you why. And I will link it below or link it up in the cards so that you can go and watch that video to see why Jen did not tape at the reunion. We already know that Jen has been sentenced and she has to report to federal prison next month. So we have things, happening. So that is the recap and the review for this episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episode 13, titled Unfashionable Behavior. Until next time, be sure to take care of yourselves and your families. Bye-bye.